What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard here with Justin from Rempengu Nation. What did you do today?
I got top 30 at a remote duel YCS where my only losses were in top 32, round 1 to registering late, and round 10 to on like table 1. So I was X1 all the way up until the last round because I registered late.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah,
You lost the registration
I lost the
and then
registration.
just topped.
I just topped, yeah.
That's crazy. But yeah, man, what'd you play?
I played, surprise, surprise, Ishizu Tear, but I played some spicy cards in the main and then the side, so it's a kind of interesting list, so it's definitely worth the watch.
Nice. Hey, without further ado, let's dive into it.
Alright, so I played two Rhino. That's kind of the only one that you just don't want to open multiples of because it clogs really bad, especially into Dweller. So your normal you'll have enough copies of it in your deck, but I made a big boo-boo. I forgot to put terraforming in my deck list. That was because I was like making my deck list at like 6 a.m. and I just didn't have cards in front of me, but it's fine. It worked out in the end. But you only need two. You never want to like really have more because you'll always have access to it. And then everything is, all the other ones are always 3-ups because you want to hit them to fuse and always play 40. So that's 11 cards. Then the shufflers, I played 3 Keldo, 3 Medora, 2 Kelback. I wish I played 3 Kelback. And then looking back on it, I also wish that I sided Gravekeeper's Trap. So when I go first with Medora, because you'll have all 3 in, because when you go second, you side out 1. When you go first with it and you open like one of these, it works really well still because then it can grab Gravekeeper's Trap, which then is just an interruption because you can search for Kelbeck when they're gonna mill and then special it on resolution. So I wish I sided it, but that's it for the Ishizu cards. I don't play Agido because there's no point to play it anymore. So in the main deck, this was a card I was talking about on Brett's podcast that is really good in the mirror match. It's Kurikara. So I main decked it. Usually people like side it just for going second, but I made a lot of 2 of really good cards in the deck because each card I wanted to have just one copy of it and never ever a duplicate usually. So I wanted 6 cards in my hand to usually just be different. So the math said to just play 2 ofs of all the really good cards. So I played 2 of this card and then I sided the third one for when I went second. So, and then for the beast shields I only did 7 because I was having a problem where I was just like clogging on them too much, and did not want to play 6 because then you have to cut a Jerusalem to make the math correct. Because if you open Jerusalem Mag, you want to search Saren there, and I think Jerusalem is just so good. So 7 is the right number to be able to do this accurately, I think. And then I decided the 2 other Sareners to the mirror, and then 3 planet, no terraforming because I'm a dunce, I guess. And then, so other 2 of broken cards I played were 2 Talents and then 2 Super Poly. Brett convinced me this card was really good, and it was really good every time I saw it. Everybody's playing Imperm now, so there's a cool situation you can do where you hold a Super Poly, make the Kikalos, and then have another name. They try to Imperm, you just chain Super Poly, fusing them off, make Rukalos, and then you get all the effects because it dodges the Imperm too. So I should have played just 3 of this card realistically. It's also
It did seem like a lot of people were playing Imperm at the event too.
yeah, so playing more of this just made sense, but it's also like a really cool thing to do because when they make Rukalos to play around the Bestial and they make you mill and they hit Super Poly, they don't want to make Dweller because then that plays into Super Poly that you could just have in your hand and lose the game. So sometimes they just don't Dweller you half the time because of that, or they wouldn't Rukalos you in a good spot. So it's actually like really good just to have copies in your deck so your opponent has to make bad plays and they'll always have knowledge because of Kelbeck. So that's the reason I played 2 of so many cards, because then realistically your opponent can't play around everything in their board. It's just very like sporadic depending on the situation and what you mill. So it's 2 of those guys. Then the 1 instant and 1 scream. I don't like the terror spells and traps that much, but I understand that you have to play Scream and Soliak, so I usually win games more of just like the monsters and just having more interaction. So I never wanted cards to open that just didn't do anything when I went second. I lost almost all my die rolls, and I was glad I just didn't play multiple copies of cards that just didn't do anything when I opened them. And then for the rest of the deck, the 3 last cards were 2 Imperm and Soliak. So I did 2 of everything, like I said, with the Courier as well, because I wanted just way more variants of cards. Granted, Inform is like not a hard once per turn. It's actually just like really low impact into a lot of situations. So again, I just wanted two, and then post siding, I was able to like fix my deck essentially to have like three of the better cards for specific matchups. This also let me cover Flunder more in my main, so that my side was more equipped for everything. So that's 40 in the main. Then the extra, it was Kikalos, Rukalos, Kaleido, this makes sense. Predator Plant, Guru, Mudragon, that also makes sense. So for my links, I was playing a cool card. It was Zeraboros. I actually made it once and it was really good. You just out a whole board on the Dweller essentially that they have established with like Field Spell and Soliac and stuff. But realistically, I should have played IP with it instead of Wallow. Granted, the situations where I made Wallow were good. Because I played this card, I should have played IP as well. So the three changes I'd make would obviously play a third Callback, put Terraforming in, play the Gravekeeper Shop on the side, and play IP. So 4 changes, sorry. So definitely play those. Then I played Elephant Sprint, you gotta play those, and then Dark. So those were the only links. Like I said, I wish I played IP. And then XYZs are Zeus, Wallow, Beatrice, Goose Good Dweller. You need every single one of these. This is the only flexible one. So that's it for the extra deck. And then for the side deck, so this is where it's really
crazy.
It is pretty good. So this is where the spicy is, right? So I played 2 Ash and then 3 Drill. I didn't play the Banshee stuff because I felt like that would just disrespect Dark Worlds and Draco Slayer too much. And those decks, if you don't side a card that can beat them and they win the Gyro, 9 out of 10 times you just lose the match. And with me having a round 1 loss, I needed to make sure I won everything. So I wanted a card that just covered in case I played those decks. So Joel, I never played against what was it? Against Draco or Dark World, but I'm so glad I played this card. Then the 2 Serenaries because I only made the 7 Beast Shields. And then the 1 Orange Light because post side you'll still have fairies in your deck because another cool thing about Kurikara is that she's a fairy as well, so you can pitch her off Orange Light if need be. So if you open like duplicates, like it makes Orange Light like a lot better.
So, how exactly broken was Kurikura this event?
Okay, so I'll explain, which I can go to now because I cited the 3rd copy, how good this card is. So this card I think is objectively better than Nib, Talents, and Super Poly in the mirror going second into a Dweller. So if your opponent Dwellers you, this card already has value, and they're always going to Dweller you. So because it clears the Dweller, it establishes a monster that's 3,000 because you tribute at least 1 monster, and it can push through everything else. Not only that, in the end phase, it could revive a guy, any guy from their grave. So you can do stuff like revive Rukalos, Kaleido Horror, or anything like that, and it really, really helps you break through Dweller. And because her summon is a summoning condition and not a card effect, it does not trigger Tearlaments or anything like that. So my opponent would make a board with like Beatrice, Dweller, stuff like that. I would force out all the cards with like my darks and like everything else, and then I would just drop this at the end and then go for game. So you'd want to just try to get as most value out of it. More broken about this, it's so good that even if you open 2, you can drop the first one simply on the Dweller, force out the rest of the board, and then drop another because it's not a hard once per turn to summon.
That sounds
It's just
crazy.
yeah, it's just a once per turn to special. So this card is really broken against Sprite, Tear, like Bird, not Flunder, but like the other Bird deck and stuff. So this card was just like the secret card like I was keeping for the deck because it just makes the mirror like so much easier to beat going second.
And some Monster Reborn.
Yeah, and some monster. So it's like it does like 3 things essentially. It establishes a big beater to out something, it outs a monster, and it also revives a monster. So it's just really, really good. Yeah. I'm glad I played it.
100% your idea.
Yeah, it was very good. In testing, Brett basically had Crime Solic said did a bunch of stuff with Beatrice, Sprint, Dweller, Kaleido, Kikalos, everything on my turn. When I was trying to force the Alpha Battle phase and he just revived Merly, hit everything. I just dropped this, tributed all 6 monsters, and attacked for game. And he had a Hovinus in hand. He couldn't do anything about it.
It's worse than getting dunked on, you.
Yeah, it was just like 1 card just killed him. And then I did 2 Lightning Storm because I needed stuff for like macro DeFi stuff post side. I think this card's better than Twin Twisters because if I get hit by Metaverse, this still clears the field spell, whereas like all the other stuff doesn't. And then this just helps you against like monster boards. So it's a dual threat against Flunder. So say you can play through the trap card but not the statue. This helps the statue. You can play through the statue but not the trap card. This forces the trap, and then you can just play. So I only did 2 because I didn't respect those decks as much. Now this is where the spicy spices. So I sided 2 Desires, and it was objectively the best card in the deck. Now you guys might be asking, why not just main Desires if you like it so much? Well, there's a reason, and like I explained it. And if you watch my Melfi deck profile, I go over it more with like with Prosperity and why I sided it. So I have it written out what I told people. So it's like the reason game 1 is because game 1 is the most important game. So I need to balance on my deck to make sure that it has consistency, ceiling, and enough defensive cards. So if my deck is consistent enough and it has a high enough ceiling, which Tear does, I wanted cards that would just actually just do something. So every card in my deck was either engine or consistency pieces or just did something going second. Desires didn't always do something going second. However, so my main the 20 defensive cards. So that's half my deck. And so game 2 now, my deck is fixed, right? Essentially, because I fix it with the right like sort of cards to put in for each matchup. So against like Tear, I'll have in these. Against Flunder, I'll have these. Against Sprite, I'll have like this. And just whatever, right? Then Desires becomes any 2 cards in my deck once it's now fixed to be just like better. So because since Yu-Gi-Oh's now like post side, especially decided on the first 2 turns, I wanted to be able to just play with 2 cards. So yeah, this card was just fantastic, and I wouldn't not play it. It was really good.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and then the last 2 cards were just the third Imperm and the Crime, which I believe should never be in the main deck. Yeah, that's it for the deck.
Okay, so I mean, any other changes you would make to it or anything like that?
Just a Gravekeeper strap to the side. I would do the IP and the extra, and then I would do the third Callback, I think, and obviously Terraforming. Aside from that, I think it was pretty much where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, man, you did really great in the event. You know, congrats on your top. I definitely thought you were gonna win the event. Before we conclude, did you have any other shout outs or anything?
Shout outs to Plus One Gaming, our local. Shout outs to Brett. He came over to play the YCS in my house. He just played in a different room, so it's kind of cool having a friend over. We could talk between rounds. Shout outs to everybody who I've tested with at my locals, and who just helped me test for the event, like Mario, people, etc. I didn't actually think, like, I went into this like event with low expectations because I started 0-1, but then I just did really well, so.
You went crazy.
And then obviously shout out to Fidian Gaming, Fidian Accessories. They make cool mats like this. This new mat's pretty nice. There's some new material coming in, so it's gonna be like extra soft and like holographic design mats too.
Oh, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, so be sure to check them out.
But yeah, man, definitely thanks for the profile.
Yep.
And we'll see you in the next one.